forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
And Myrick admitted he ordered hits on witnesses. His attorney said that he may be a gang member, but that doesn't mean he's guilty of the crimes listed in the indictment. Working on finding out how long the jury will deliberate before they wrap it up for the night. We are live in downtown Atlanta. Tom Jones.
A prosecutor telling a judge that a teen gang member who had pleaded guilty to armed robbery when he was 14 was so violent he had committed more crimes while in youth detention.
All right, well, YFN Lucci is asking to be released on bail and placed on house arrest because he was attacked. He was attacked on February 9th and stabbed by an inmate who used a homemade shank. He said he was told there is a price out on his head and he should be granted that bond because he could die right now if he's in jail.
Here's what led up to it. This past August, at a court hearing in Fulton County Superior Court, just before Jayden Myrick's 17th birthday, Superior Court Judge Doris Downs went against the advice of prosecutors and decided to release Myrick on probation instead of making him serve years in prison for an armed robbery he committed when he was 14. Judge Downs, wanting to give Myrick every chance to turn his life around, listened to the assistant DA tell her that in the 2.5 years that Myrick was in custody at the Sumter Youth Detention Center at Americus for that previous armed robbery, quote, he was essentially running the blood gang, committing more violent crimes inside the facility, and the prosecutor predicted Myrick would continue his gang activity if the judge released him. According to the hearing transcript, the prosecutor told the judge, quote, Myrick committed an armed robbery with a firearm when he was 14. He agreed to a negotiated guilty plea of 7 years in prison. But when he went into custody, he didn't change his behavior. I don't think he's rehabilitated, Judge. Judge Downs replied, well, he's going to get out. That's the reality. He's going to get out, now or later.
For the full indictment, there are more than a dozen robberies connected to the YSL gang.
That's right. Some of the people listed in this indictment we went through today are connected to crimes that don't always include other rival gang members. One person listed in the indictment is the same person accused of murdering a husband from Washington, D.C. who was in town for a wedding. And some of the robberies and carjackings included in this indictment allege that this gang is tied to crimes across the metro. An 88-page indictment against members of the YSL gang in Atlanta ties the gang to 13 robberies, 11 attempted murders, and 2 murders. We went through the entire document that claims the gang is one of the most violent since it started in 2012 in the Cleveland Avenue area. Jayden Myrick is an alleged YSL gang member accused of trying to kill rival gang member YFN Lucci while in the Fulton County Jail in February. But the reason Myrick was in jail was for the alleged murder of a Washington, D.C. businessman at the Capital City Club in Brookhaven in 2019.
The gang member accused of killing a father outside a wedding is admitting he ordered hits on witnesses, but he insists he did not commit the murder. The brother of the victim identified Jayden Myrick as the killer, but Myrick once again said he did not do it. Channel 2's Tom Jones live at the Fulton County Courthouse. Tom, the jury just got this case.
That's right, Karen. The jury got the case about an hour ago. They picked a jury foreperson and began deliberating. Before that, they heard why prosecutors say that defendant Jayden Myrick is the killer. They also heard why the defense says it's someone else.
Small choices in life.
Prosecutor Christopher Sperry showed the jury the bullet that killed 34-year-old Christian Broder back in July 2018. Sperry said Jayden Myrick made the choice to fire that bullet into Broder as he left a wedding and was waiting on an Uber with friends and family.
Because of his choices, we are here today.
Myrick, then 17, faces more than a dozen charges, including felony murder, aggravated assault, gang activity, and armed robbery.
Can you pick him out? Here.
Broder's brother and a woman with the group that night,
person on the far left,
pointed to a photo of Myrick and said he was the person who robbed them and shot Christian Broder. But Myrick took the stand in his own defense and said he was nowhere near the Capital City Country Club that night.
In the nighttime, I was at Mich's house.
But two of his co-defendants said they were with him when he shot Broder. Myrick said they were trying to frame him, and his attorney pointed to another person as the shooter.
And they would have you believe that this could not be the man that did it.
Prosecutors said several witnesses identified Myrick as the shooter, and Myrick, an admitted gang member, was recorded ordering hits on some of them for snitching.
So that's 5 different witnesses that you have threatened harm. But the judge decided to release Jayden Myrick anyway on probation. That was this past August, just before Myrick's 17th birthday. It is a familiar story. While Myrick was out on probation a week ago Sunday, Atlanta police say Myrick robbed 4 wedding guests outside the Capital City Club as they were waiting for an Uber and shot and critically wounded one of them, Christian Broder. A Washington, D.C. restaurant executive at last report Broder, the father of an infant daughter, was in critical condition at Piedmont Hospital.
To our newsroom tonight, a Fulton County jury has returned a guilty verdict against a man accused of murdering a wedding guest in Atlanta. We first brought you this story back in 2018. Jayden Myrick was accused of shooting Christian Broder as he waited for an Uber with his family outside the Capital City Country Club in Brookhaven. Broder was a restaurant owner from Washington, D.C., and a father to a newborn child. Today, the jury found Myrick guilty in his death, convicting him on malice murder and criminal street gang activity charges.
Yeah, we back. It's your ace Popalot. Mob, gang. We just pulled up in Georgia, on our way to the A with it. I would say meet us on Cleveland Avenue, but this story has ties to people that the police say have been terrorizing the city since 2013. So if you in the city, we gonna catch up with you. Now today, I'm gonna be bringing you the story of a guy by the name of Jayden Myrick. But according to the government, he also goes by the name of Set Trip as well as J-Man. Now, if you're not in the city of Atlanta, I really don't expect you to know about Jayden Myrick. But even if you're not from the A and you pay attention, it's a slight chance that you just might. Now, with the YSL indictment that was handed down just a couple months ago, the authorities will go on to snatch upwards of 20 people. I want to say 26 to be exact, but we're sure it was more than 20. And when you take a look at the list of those 20 individuals, not only does it give you a look inside of the YSL organization, it also gives you a look at some of the high-profile people as well as the high-profile situations that the gang is tied to. Now, we all know Young Thug and Gunna as they were the names that headlined the indictment, but it also featured people like Duke and Yak Gotti, whom authorities allege was responsible for the hit on Donovan Nut Thomas. It also contained a guy by the name of Kristen Eppinger, who was involved in a high-profile case where 2 Atlanta police officers were shot. It also contained a guy by the name of Pee Wee Roscoe, who some of you may remember for being the guy that was convicted for the Lil Wayne tour bus shooting. Now, on top of those names that I just named, another one that will fall right in the category is going to be the guy that we're covering today, Jayden Myrick himself. Now, Jayden Myrick, who by all accounts seems like he had a very, very rough life, as you guys would see evidence of that in the early on video clips. But nothing really tells that story as much as an Atlanta Journal-Constitution article that was written about Jayden Myrick in late October of this year. And in that article, titled "Murder Defendant Says He Was Groomed by Street Gangs as a Child," now the author of the article would go into detail about Myrick's childhood that would eventually lead to him catching an armed robbery charge at the age of 14. Now, though that sounds shocking to some, if you're from the ghetto, you all too familiar with cases and situations just like this one. young child with no outlet that resorts to the streets. And with the situation with Jayden Myrick, that was exactly the case. And for some people that like to play the blame game, you could really blame America. You can blame his parents. You can probably blame the judicial system. But against rulings from the district attorney, who would plead to keep the juvenile Jayden Myrick incarcerated, as she would go on to say that she didn't think that he was rehabilitated and he had essentially been running the youth blood gang while serving his time in detention. Now, regardless of all that, Jayden Myrick would end up being released, and he would find himself at the Capital City Country Club in the historic Brookhaven neighborhood on July 7th of 2018. And that would be where, according to witness testimony as well as authorities, he would go on to rob several people that would be leaving a wedding venue in the area, one of which being a Washington, D.C. businessman visiting the area for the wedding by the name of Christian Broder. Now, according to numerous media outlets, they would say that the robbery would play out as Christian Broder would be standing outside of the event center with several individuals, including his brother, as they would wait on the Uber. It would be at that time when 4 teenagers would pull up in a vehicle and essentially rob the entire group, fleeing the scene. According to reports, in an attempt to get the stolen property back, it was said that Christian Broder would follow the vehicle, eventually getting a chance to speak with then 17-year-old Jayden Myrick. It would go on to be said that Mr. Broder would try convincing Jayden Myrick to return the stolen items, and it would be during the course of that exchange where it would be said that Jayden Myrick would allegedly tell the Washington, D.C. businessman, "Do you really want to die over this?" Not sure if Christian Broder had a chance to answer that question, but he would be shot in the stomach and eventually die from his wounds. Jayden Myrick would eventually be arrested for this crime and would find himself at trial in October of 2022. And that will be where this situation and this case gets very, very interesting, because it would be at his trial where Jayden Myrick would take the stand and essentially admit to being a YSL gang member. Not only that, he would go on to say that he was also affiliated with the 9 Trey Blood set. And in what I would find to be the most shocking statement, he would go on to say that he currently identifies as a member of 4PF, which we all know to be the entourage of Atlanta rapper Lil Baby. And after the jury would go on to hear that, his history, as well as the evidence against him, Jayden Myrick would eventually be convicted in late October of 2022. But it would be an incident that occurred a month prior to his trial that will put his name on the radar just as much, if not more, than that murder trial and that association with YSL. And it would be an incident that occurred in early March of 2002. And that would be when fellow Atlantan or ATLian YFN Lucci would claim that he would be stabbed in jail, and they would identify Jayden Myrick as the suspect that stabbed YFN Lucci, leading YFN Lucci as well as his lawyer to try to get a release for the rapper on the grounds that he had some alleged bounty on his head. Though convicted of the 2018 murder of Christian Broder, with Jayden Myrick's affiliation with YSL and that case set to come to trial, who knows if this is the last we're going to hear of him, but we're going to keep you guys updated. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all hit the red subscribe right under this video so y'all know when this real Trill Spill shit is dropping. Y'all getting the comment box flooded. Let me know what cities we haven't been to, what stories we missed, what gangsters we haven't covered, what we got wrong about this story, any story. I'm here for it all. Y'all know what it is with me. Shit got Popalot. Mob, gang.